Coming at you from half past midnight here in Hampton Roads, I am seeing what looks like it could be an historic snowfall. It's only at like 3 or 4 inches right now, but y'all gotta realize that for Virginia, that is a lot of snow. It only really snows here once or twice, maybe 3 times a year. Usually we get exactly as we did this time, like a flurry that lasts an afternoon and all of it melts and like a little bit of it stays on the ground if it's in a shaded spot. And then we get the serious snow that lasts a few days and that stays on the ground for up to a few weeks. But rarely does it come in hot and heavy when you know it's also going to be coming down for a few days. So this is looking like it's going to shut down the area because they don't deal with snow here. It ain't like that. I've lived in the north, in Rochester and in Boston, and so I have gotten used to what it's like to actually live with snow. And like, frankly, it is a lot safer to drive in those places that have regular snowfall because they take care of that shit immediately. Like the second the snow starts, the plows start. And you got like a fifth of everybody in town has a goddamn plow on the front of their truck. So people are plowing it as it's coming down. Here in Virginia, it's like everybody goes to bed and then they wake up and they can't leave until the plows come through, because there's like 5 of them, probably. I don't know how many there really are. I don't think it's as bad as Atlanta, where there were like literally 4 snow plows in the entire city. Today I'm trying a very different format from what I did yesterday. In case you don't know what this is, I'm running for president. I intend to run for president as of the 2028 election because of the fact that I am old enough to become the U.S. president as of 2028. And I think I have a unique skill at presiding. And so I've been trying to express that skill by presiding over the current presidency, basically explaining where I think its strengths and weaknesses are as I prepare myself to inherit the position, which really requires me to watch what the president does, who the president talks to, what the president's up to, who the president isn't talking to but should be. I have to be keeping up with both what I'm inheriting when I step into the role of president, but also what I should be bringing newly to the role that isn't being brought to it right now. When I talked about Trump's inauguration, I was using this PBS article that had very detailed coverage of like literally everything Trump did all day because he was pretty much being followed around on official business all day. And I guess I'm not too surprised to realize that there's not a consistent source of following everything Trump's doing. There probably should be, but alas, no such thing seems to exist. So instead, I was trying to find the best possible collection of news. Like, where do I find the most news? How do I get all of the things that happened today that somebody actually did notate, that somebody bothered to tell the public? How do I gather all that into one place? So I've seen these ads for ground news that FD Signifier does. I'm not sponsored by them. I would love to be. So if there's one way that would guarantee that this series kept happening, it would be me picking up a ground news sponsorship. I got to make back the $10 investment I made in being able to open more than 5 articles on the fucking thing. You'll understand how it works as I go through it and why I chose it. I don't want to front load this with an explanation because, again, I haven't been paid. But I've got like 25 articles open here that I may or may not read all of them. I opened up some that I'm just a little curious about. And I'm going to see if I can get a pretty comprehensive view of what's going on. This is basically me doing my own version of the news. If you're somebody who doesn't want to have to listen to the news, at least without going through it with somebody that you like or trust, then I'm here to offer that for you. Why do you think you can like and trust me? Because I'm insane. And so you know that I'm not in it for anything other than personal enjoyment of getting to do it. I just want to do it. I just want to be president. I know that's they always say like, oh, the good president wouldn't want to be president. I don't know why. I don't know why they think that. I don't know why that's a thing. Like sometimes people say shit and it just kind of sounds good, so people run with it. But then as soon as you challenge it, there's no real logic behind what was actually said. We're going to see a lot of that when I talk about things that Trump says. Trump obviously became president by wanting to do it a whole lot, and I just want to do a better job, than any of them. I don't think any of them have done as good of a job as I can do as president. So that's why I want the role. It's just simply I think I am the woman for the job. And nobody else is really out there putting their hand up like that. I mean, Mr. Beast did, but he's so young. Even if you did want him, I wouldn't. He's shady, and he's a rich guy. But even if he wants to become president, he's got to wait till after my administration. Unless Trump lowers the age just to get him in, which he could bribe Trump into doing with all that money he's got. I don't know why I'm giving Mr. Beast ideas. I not want to have to run against him. Okay, so one of the things I was the most upset about on the first day of Trump's presidency was his decision to try to attack birthright citizenship, which I think is really the only kind of citizenship that actually exists in the United States. So I don't know how you can justify this. Attorney generals from 22 states sued to block President Trump's move to end birthright citizenship, which guarantees citizenship to U.S.-born children regardless of their parents' status. 22 states. If your mentality on that is, well, that's less than half, that's more than how many voted for Kamala Harris. So even states that voted for Trump are not in favor of this decision. It's insanity is why. The White House stated it is ready to face the states in court, calling the lawsuits an extension of the left's resistance. The lawsuits argue that Trump's executive order violates the 14th Amendment and should be blocked from taking effect. California Attorney General Rob Bonta described the order as blatantly unconstitutional and stated that it would harm states by risking federal funding for programs. Birthright citizenship is the 14th Amendment. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. So, this is a right that we already secured in the 1800s. This is, deeply embedded into America. Removing rights, never, ever, ever, ever a good look. This is literally the removal of American rights. This is just stripping away the rights of Americans that are granted by existing amendments. Trump's taking your rights away with this one. I'm not about that at all. Trump pardoned Silk Road founder Ross Ulbricht after 11 years in prison. President Donald Trump announced a pardon for Ross William Ulbricht, founder of the Silk Road dark web marketplace, after he served 11 years in prison for various charges, including money laundering and drug trafficking. Ulbricht was serving a life sentence since 2015 when he was convicted on multiple charges related to Silk Road's operations, which the Justice Department labeled as a major criminal marketplace. Trump described Ulbricht's sentence as ridiculous and claimed it was disproportionate to his crimes, expressing frustration with the legal figures involved in Ulbricht's conviction. Libertarian National Committee Chair Angela McArdle called Ulbricht a libertarian political prisoner for more than a decade and celebrated the pardon as a fulfillment of Trump's campaign promise. I have no problems with this, and I know that will make some of you upset, but simply put, I don't think some of this shit should be illegal. I don't think drug sale of any type should be illegal. I don't think that this marketplace should have been illegal. I don't think that this guy should have gone to, I mean, any more so than any other rich guy doing rich guy shit. You know, like, I understand the mentality of like, well, this guy belongs in prison, and so does Trump, and so does everybody, you know, in this fiasco that we call a government. But I do not look to prison as an answer. I do not look to the removal of human rights as an answer if another answer is possible. Hit them in the wallet. Disperse the income. Putting them in prison doesn't help the people take their money. I mean, it can help the government take some of their money, but they can't make any money. They're in, you know, like, I need them to keep doing the thing they're doing. I just need them to give me a lot more of the profit from it, because there is no way to quantify how much value I supply to what they're doing, other than that it is impossible without a massive number of a population existing for them to supply what they need to do what they're doing. So they have to redistribute that back to us. They cannot just keep amassing power at the cost of our lives. So I'm not against this in the sense that I want more pardons. I want more dark web. I want more drug sales. I'm sure there are other reasons that I will criticize this decision in terms of how it benefits Trump and how it could have negative effects on us. I just don't think it's inherently a bad idea to pardon this guy. U.S. throws out policies limiting arrests of immigrants at sensitive locations like schools and churches. The Trump administration has rolled back Biden-era guidance limiting federal immigration arrests at sensitive locations such as schools and churches. Acting Homeland Security Secretary Benjamin Huffman rescinded the order that restricted immigration enforcement near protected areas. The Department of Homeland Security stated that criminals will no longer be able to hide in schools and churches to avoid arrest. Trump's executive orders aim to increase immigration enforcement and target migrants without legal status. This is just inhumane to me. I don't understand why we need to go to these efforts to... I mean, Trump is basically committing terrorism against immigration. Like, he is trying to terrorize Mexicans out of believing that they can safely come to America. He wants it to be the most difficult process it can be so that only, like, the very select few can get through. I don't think that only the richest Mexicans are the ones that we necessarily want in America. I think that, again, America is a nation of immigrants. Immigrants do most of the work that most Americans just simply will not do. I think we should always be creating more Americans and doing everything in our power to naturalize them and get them up to speed and create a baseline that is easy to reach. Like, America has the capacity that you could come here and just be hooked up, you know? And, like, we do want people. Like, Trump keeps insisting we want people, but he's doing everything in his power to limit how many people, because he only wants certain people. But I don't think his filtration, which is just money, is the best filtration metric for how to determine if we have good people, which we know the entire American theory is based on the fact that mass migration of people who believe in the vision of the country as an idea, and that's why they come here, works, because it's the entire way the country's been built. I really see all of this methodology as Trump trying to maximize short-term profits during the term of his presidency. He really just wants to be able to leave after 4 years and for everybody to say he got all the prices down, he got all the, he wants to make the shortest term turnaround that he can, which is why he's involving all these hyper-rich people and why he's basically trying to do this incredible penny pinch of, like, he's closing off all the government spending, but also, except for the spending that also cuts spending. Like, he's only spending on penny pinching. He's only spending on, stuff that in his mind is going to balance the economy in the short term. He knows these are not long-term solutions. He knows this is not how America should be run on a casual basis. He is concerned about making a flip within 4 years, and then fucking he'll be dead by the end of it, probably. The presidencies supposedly age you 4 times faster than a regular person, so a compressed dart of 16 years inside of your 80s, inside of 4 years in your 80s. Trump shrugs off billions made through meme coin launch. Yeah, I mean, that's incredibly predictable. Honestly, as a business move, this was brilliant for Trump. Like, I don't think it really benefits anybody other than him and whoever made money on this flip. But it is kind of a free ride. Like, I am sure most of you listening do not use crypto because you have a perception of it as like a right-wing thing that's like, just, I don't know, bad. But like, all of capitalism is bad. So if you're throwing it out on that basis, you're just throwing money away. Because in my experience so far, owning Bitcoin has just printed money for me. Like, I've only ever owned a very small amount of it, but every couple of years it dramatically increases in value. So, based on the information I know about specifically Bitcoin, that pattern shouldn't stop anytime soon. There's a big question mark on when all the Bitcoin is printed. Will that increase or decrease the overall value of Bitcoin? I don't really know. Depends on how much the market keeps being in use, but the crypto market is still really popular right now. So I look at this Trump coin thing as basically Trump putting out an open invitation to anybody who believes in crypto and that his presidency will continually raise the price of crypto and also futures in the concept of himself, that they can just make a quick pump and dump. Like, it is called a meme coin. It is literally described itself as a meme coin that has no value other than the value of Trump's identity and the fact that he's president. I totally understand how he's made his money off of this. I think a lot of people will make money off of this. And then a lot of people will make fun of everybody who doesn't make money off of it or everybody who loses money off of it. But, it's for the people who know. It's if you know, you know. If you know, you know, you could probably make some money off of this. It's just basically a freebie Trump is throwing up to the crypto bros to just give them a quick bag, keep them on his side. I'm just saying my Bitcoin went up in value tremendously when Trump became president and when he did that. All right, back into the realm of terrible and baffling decisions. Trump orders all federal diversity, equity, and inclusion employees placed on paid leave starting Wednesday. President Donald Trump ordered all federal diversity, equity, and inclusion employees to be placed on paid leave starting Wednesday, as detailed in a memo from the Office of Personnel Management. The memo instructs agencies to develop plans for layoffs and remove all public DEI-focused web pages by the deadline. Trump's executive order aims to dismantle federal DEI programs, accusing former President Joe Biden of imposing discrimination through these initiatives. The order mandates federal agencies to close all offices related to DEI and environmental justice within 60 days. This is transparently awful, I think. First of all, I don't know how you even define who is a DEI hire. I don't know that there's like a folder in a filing system somewhere that is, here's the people that were hired on the basis of DEI. They've already removed a bunch of these websites. A lot of what has actually happened has been the government has taken down a whole bunch of websites that were made to, help people to get information and get help from the government. He took away as much of that as he could right away. Just from like a logistical standpoint though, right? So first of all, we're now paying people through tax money to not do their jobs. This is him telling us, let's pay everyone to not do their jobs for a while I figure out how I'm going to fire them legally, I guess. He couldn't just fire them, so he has to just temporarily keep them not working so that they can't work against him, because he assumes any DEI hire is automatically against him. But the ultimate purpose of this is to make it so that he can hire as many old white guys as he wants. As many old white guys as he thinks is necessary to fill the government with rich people. He wants to be able to hire exactly that many old white guys. He doesn't want to have to hire anybody on the basis specifically that they're not an old white guy. That's what he means by imposing discrimination. Specifically, I would like for the government to include representation of every type of person that exists within the country so that nobody has their rights completely trampled on in the effort of making things even better for people who already have everything. Like old white guys. Okay, so this doesn't have as much reporting on it, but the one article about it does seem to be a little bit more detailed, and it is considered center by so we'll check it out. We'll see how center it feels when we read it and what it's about. President Trump issued a broad slew of energy policies in efforts to roll back environmental protections on his first day in office. The moves excited supporters in the fossil fuel industry. American Petroleum Institute President CEO Mike Summers, for example, said in a written statement that Trump's moves chart a new path for U.S. oil and natural gas are embraced, not restricted. But they worried environmentalists who warned that the orders would ultimately be bad for the planet. The theme that runs throughout is to maximize both the supply of and the demand for fossil fuels, which is precisely the opposite of what we need to do to address the climate crisis. Michael Gerard, founder of Columbia Law School's Sabin Center for Climate Change Law, told The Hill. Here are some of the measures that could be the most impactful. Blocking new wind energy projects. Trump on Monday issued an executive order that barred the government from auctioning off the rights to build wind farms offshore, and also temporarily blocked new rights for wind on public lands. That doesn't sound like a bad thing, actually. I don't know if offshore and public lands are where there's plenty of fucking empty space. I mean, if we're talking... No, I don't want them on BLM land. I want to use the BLM land. No, build it on... Fill North Texas with windmills. Fill the entirety of North Texas with windmills if you're going to do something with the fucking windmills. There's nothing there. Dismantle all the gross-ass cow farms that are in North Texas. Send all those farms away. Just, we don't... Send those cows to Oklahoma where they can have a new home. And fucking fill North Texas with nothing but windmills. And fuck off with the windmills everywhere else. In addition, the order directs the Interior Department to halt the construction of a wind farm in Idaho that was approved under the Biden administration. Again, Idaho's a beautiful place that we don't need a bunch of windmills. Fill North Texas with windmills. Hashtag my executive order. Fill North Texas with windmills. Trump has long railed against wind as an energy source, calling windmills ugly and claiming that they have killed birds. According to the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, wind turbines can kill birds, but fewer than house cats and fossil fuels do. The wind industry and climate advocates alike expressed concern about the order, noting that it could disrupt the industry and prevent the building out of carbon-free power. There are better reasons to have issues with wind power, particularly if it's like close to civilization. Or in a place that, there's not like, a lot of wind. But if we're talking about the sweeping plains of, the panhandle of Oklahoma or, again, North Texas near Amarillo where there's fucking nothing there but meth right now, just fill it with windmills. Like, we literally have the space to put like 100,000 windmills. Maybe even like 100 million windmills. We probably have space to put millions of windmills in North Texas and in Panhandle, Oklahoma, and in the shitty part of Colorado, the shitty eastern desert of Colorado. Fill all that with windmills. Nothing grows there. There's nothing to protect there. It's just wind-scarred land. Windmills would be the best thing you could do with that. The wind industry and climate advocates alike expressed concern about the order, noting that it could disrupt the industry and prevent the building out of carbon-free power. In any emerging industry, even minor delays can lead to multi-year setbacks, resulting in bottlenecks and higher costs that ultimately impact energy consumers, said Eric Milito, president of the National Ocean Industries Association, in a written statement. Senator Martin Heinrich was among the critics of the action, writing on the social platform X that it would raise the cost of energy, kill thousands of skilled trades jobs, and threaten billions of dollars of planned investments in rural communities. Offshore wind has also particularly large potential for energy production, since the areas off the coast where it's generated are especially windy. Yeah, but see, I'm worried about damaging the fucking ocean. I'm a lot less concerned about the nothing that exists in North Texas and eastern fucking Colorado than I am about what exists in the ocean and the ecosystems there. There's life all throughout the water. Revisiting the EPA's finding that climate change is dangerous, another executive order Trump signed directs the Environmental Protection Agency to revisit its 2009 finding that climate change is dangerous, a key policy that underlines many agency regulations. What, are you going to try to convince people that they don't know what they know? That's stupid. In 2007, the Supreme Court ruled that the EPA has the authority to regulate planet-warming gases if it determines they pose a threat to public health. In 2009, it did just that, saying the greenhouse gases endanger both the public health and the public welfare of current and future generations. Some observers said the order was an attempt to undermine climate rules en masse. Yeah, that's what it sounds like. Stan Myberg, who was the EPA's acting number 2 during the Obama administration, told The Hill via email that overturning the finding would mean greenhouse gases would no longer be recognized as pollutants under the meaning of that term in the Clean Air Act, and so therefore the act would not apply to them. That's not good. He added that this could lead to the undoing of a number of climate regulations, with particular impact on regulations impacting cars and power plants. I'm less worried about the cars than I am about the power plants, but I'm much more worried about the ships, which it doesn't sound like anybody's really nobody wants to think about the ships because the economy is so dependent on shipping. But that's why we're ruining the world. We want the economy to stay as it is. We don't want to give up the ships. But you have to give up the ships if you want to fix the world. Gerard said that if the administration is successful in overturning the endangerment finding, it would be devastating because it is the basis for almost all of EPA's actions on climate change. However, he expressed skepticism about whether any attempts to do so would actually be successful. I think that would be a fool's errand, he said. Yeah, because we all know for a fact that it's bad. It's all anybody talks. I don't know if you realize that the weather is the most talked about thing by humans everywhere in the world. So when the weather changes in any way, shape, or form, it's all anyone fucking talks about. Moves to speed up fossil fuel infrastructure. Trump's orders made a number of moves aimed at speeding up both fossil fuel projects specifically and infrastructure projects broadly. The actions, which included the declaration of a national energy emergency as well as orders aimed at bolstering oil and gas drilling, may not only expand the nation's fossil fuel buildout, but also restrict its consideration of the environment during the construction process. Jackson Ewing, Director of Energy and Climate Policy at Duke University. All right, we already kind of went over this part yesterday. Blocking Biden's climate cash. Another of the major provisions in a lengthy order is a directive to pause the disbursement of funds that come from the Democrats' signature climate law as well as bipartisan infrastructure law. The laws allocated billions toward clean energy projects and incentives, including tax credits for renewable energy and the purchase of electric vehicles. The Biden administration, I don't think the purchase of electric vehicles should have a tax credit because it's not actually good for the environment. The Biden administration already dispersed much of the funding, racing to get money out the door in its final months. But freezing further funds from the laws could still have a notable impact. He's directly interfering with the way that the Inflation Reduction Act plays out to help incentive clean energy transition, said Sam Sankar. The real reason that they give that credit is because it's good for the economy. It is good for you economically, and it is good for the economy to drive electric cars. That's why Donald Trump embraces Elon Musk, because he understands that the Tesla, if it succeeds, is good for the economy. But this Tesla only really works in California because there's not the infrastructure for it throughout the rest of America. So, it's odd to me that Trump is going so hard against electric cars, but I think it's really just because they're embedded already. Like the tax cuts used to be necessary because people thought that electric cars were faggy and gay. And now, like, everyone understands how fucking insane the fuel economy is. So, in a position where the average American is trying to save as much on fuel as possible, the most popular cars for the last 5 years have been hybrids and electric cars when you're not buying a truck. Like, pretty much the two genders are, let me save as much as humanly possible, or I need to carry as much shit as I can. Okay, this is interesting. Durbin opposes Patel after meeting with FBI nominee. Senator Dick Durbin opposes Kash Patel's nomination as FBI director after meeting with him. Patel's amended complaint alleges CNN defamed him by falsely connecting him to conspiracy theories regarding President Biden. Patel claims CNN published statements with actual malice, ignoring evidence that contradicted their reporting. Adam Schiff publicly criticizes Patel's qualifications, arguing for the need for experienced leadership at the FBI. So what I get out of this is literally that this dude sized this other dude up and said, nah, this ain't it. I just think that's funny. Trump defends January 6 pardons of violent criminals. Donald Trump defended his pardons for approximately 1,500 defendants charged in crimes related to the January 6 attacks, stating they had served long sentences in prison. Trump compared his pardons to Joe Biden's pardons for family members and members of the January 6 committee, claiming they were equivalent. Trump stated that former Proud Boys leader Enrique Tarrio had received a lengthy sentence for seditious conspiracy, which he deemed excessive. The Federal Bureau of Prisons confirmed that all individuals with pardoned or commuted sentences have been released, including 211 over a 12-hour period. Yeah, this doesn't bother me at all. Again, I'm not ever going to be against giving people rights. I've heavily criticized Trump for taking away lots of rights since he's been in office. I have not criticized him for giving rights back to people. I could criticize who he gives rights to, but I believe we all deserve the rights. I do not believe in taking the rights away from anybody. That's what gives them permission to take things from you. The whole point of this is that we all get to have what we want. Stefanik vows to keep the U.S. engaged at UN to counter China. So this intrigued me because part of the reason I am continuing this series is that I got to have a really fun conversation with my husband because, me having commented on everything that happened yesterday meant I was caught up. And him being an adult man who has a functioning brain is caught up naturally on whatever's going on because he, pays attention. And the biggest surprise he had yesterday was that Trump was not seemingly trying to leave the UN. And here we have a pretty explicit explanation of why that is. Representative Elise Stefanik, Senate confirmation hearing for U.S. ambassador to the United Nations went smoothly, showing bipartisan support despite some tension with Democrats. Stefanik aims to counter China's influence in the UN and promote U.S. interests, highlighting the need for transparency and accountability in UN funding. She emphasized a long-term strategy to increase American allied representation in key UN leadership positions. Stefanik expressed strong support for Israel and criticized the UN for bias against it, stating the need for moral clarity in UN discussions. I was so happy about this until the Israel part. I was like, yeah, I don't care why you want to be in the UN, as long as you have a good reason to stay in the collaborative effort of the world. But y'all are being too mean to Israel is not at all the take. Y'all are not being enough mean to Israel is definitely the take. Why does Israel have so much fucking money that the US feels the need to suck Israel's dick all day? When will we get Israel's dick out of our mouths? There's better dicks to suck out there.
So today, female athletes protesting outside the NCAA convention demanding protection for women's sports, following a major win on Capitol Hill. The House passing a bill banning biological males from female school teams. If it passes in the Senate, the bill will strip funding from all schools that don't comply. Our next guest was on Capitol Hill yesterday when it passed.
That's insane. How are they defining biological males, first of all? This is an existential question that will hopefully drive them straight into the YouTube community of trans creators, where we've been trying to find the reasonable answer to that question for millennia. This whole protect girls in sports bullshit, I'm going to have a longer diatribe on this, but for now, I'm just going to react to whatever is being said in this content.
Host of the Games for Girls podcast on Outkick.com, Riley Gaines joins us now.
Podcast host.
Good morning, Riley.
Good morning. It's good to be on with you.
Oh, God, she looks like my avatar.
So AOC had this to say.
But, like, whacked out.
About the bill. Let's watch.
By the way, why is every single transphobic woman always have the most masculine jaw you will ever see on a woman?
Republicans who have voted consistently against the Violence Against Women Act now want to pretend today that they care about women. And why? To open up gender and, yes, genital examinations into little girls in this country.
That is a legitimate, huge concern. I wasn't sure how I felt about the take she was going with here, but no, it's fucked, because they already have this in Missouri. They have literally given teachers the right to examine the genitals of students to confirm whether or not they are the gender that they purport to be in circumstances such as sports and using the restroom. That is reprehensible and disgusting. If you don't understand how massive of a problem pedophilia is in this country, if you're trying to empower people with those fetishes to put themselves into positions to handle your children, you're insane. That is total fucking insanity. It's the most reprehensible thing happening in this country, and I can't believe it's not talked about constantly.
In the so-called name of attacking trans girls. Trans girls are girls.
Is that what this fight is about, examining little girls? I mean, this is...
Yes, absolutely, you fucking pedophile.
Just off.
Yeah, that's one way to put it. If she spent 2 seconds reading the bill, she would know this has nothing to do with genital inspections. This has nothing to do...
Are you going to spend 2 seconds reading us the bill?
With any sort of anatomical examination. This resorts to birth certificates and a routine physical, which every athlete already has to complete to be able to play their...
Yeah, they don't have to introduce the genital inspections. It's already there. It's already in the law.
Sport anyway. And so to watch the theatrical performance, which that's exactly what it was, from pretty much all of the Democrats on the House floor, it was disheartening. And to continue to see them tout about women's rights, and she mentions the Violence Against Women Act. Do we remember how AOC voted on the Violence Against Women by Illegal Aliens Act? Because she voted in opposition. So, I mean, look at these people. Look how they voted on the Laken Riley Act. Look how they voted on the Save Women's Sports Act. And if they were a no on one or both, then they do not get to continue to say they support women and women's rights.
So, Riley,
trans women are women. If you don't support trans women's rights, you don't support women's rights. Women lose nothing having trans women in their sports. First of all, trans women are fucking terrible at sports. I don't know where this narrative is coming from that, like, oh, the best
surprised.
These amazing male athletes are gender switching and then dominating women's sports. No, if they were any fucking good at the sport, they would just play men's sports. They would do it just for the pride. They'd be like, I might be a trans woman, but I'm going to keep that on the down low so I can dominate and be one of the most talked about athletes of all time. That's why Bruce Jenner didn't transition until after the fucking career was over. That's why most people don't transition until their career is over. It's why most trans people never transition, because you lose all your fucking money. And it fucks with your body. It fucks with your ability to do the sport. It makes you worse at it. Transition makes you worse at the sport. You are literally damaging your own ability to even do the game you love because of how much the dysphoria matters to you. And you want to put these people into an environment around people that don't relate to them at all because they're not even dealing with the same identity. They have none of the same like, if you're a trans woman, You're dealing with the same issues as women. You're not dealing with the shit that men are going through. You don't have camaraderie with men that way. You have camaraderie with the women around you. You are in teams with women around you. You're removing the social aspect of how these people participate in society. If someone's dressed like a girl, the kids around them are going to treat them like a girl. They're going to recognize them as a girl. They're going to think it's fucking weird if that girl has to go play on the boys' team. They're not going to understand that.
It's when I saw it was only 2 Democrats from the Texas delegation. So we got some Texas Democrats that have some sense. You got Representative Henry Cuellar and you got Vicente Gonzalez that voted for the bill. I don't think this is a partisan issue. And I thought that the Democrats really cared about women. They're going to destroy the sport.
Yeah.
Destroy what sport? What the fuck are you? Nobody cares about women's sports. None of them. There's nothing to be destroyed. Men are not trying to get into women's sports. Trans women who play sports want to be able to play the sport. Most of them aren't any fucking good at them.
You don't think it's a partisan issue, neither does majority of Americans, as made.
That's statistical, by the way. That's not me like just being mean. I'm a trans woman myself, if you can't tell where the vitriol's coming from. But like statistically, trans women do not perform better at sports.
Very, very clear on November 5th, but apparently November 5th taught the Democrats nothing. I was curious going into this, will we see people double down like we saw from AOC, or will we see people start to slowly recant from their position? And if you can remember, Lawrence, a few months back, I mean, pretty immediately following the election, you had Congressman Steph Moulton. He went on the news and he said, look, we've become too radical as a party. I have daughters. I don't want my daughters on the court or on the field with boys. But even Congressman Moulton.
They're not on the field with boys. They're on the field with trans girls. The twinkiest little fucking angels in the world. Like, we're talking about people who would have made a social transition. If you're somebody who is not socially transitioned, you're not going to be asking to play on the girls' team. You're probably not playing sports. You're probably too fucking dysphoric.
Moulton was pressured into voting in opposition of the Protection of Women and Girls in Sports Act. But that tells you something. It tells you that more than a party, what the Democrats are is truthfully they're a cult.
You know, I do find that interesting because we interviewed the congressman and you thought that there was an epiphany on this issue. To see the double down even after the election, I think is truly shocking. What do you think is the end goal here? Do you think in the end that you guys are going to win this fight? It passes the Senate and President-elect Trump, when he becomes president, actually signs the bill?
I'm very hopeful. The Senate seems to be a lot more bipartisan on these hot button issues than certainly the House does. So I'm hopeful. I don't know what the timeline looks like. If you can remember
There's
last year.
There's nothing bipartisan about transphobia. Transphobia is a alt-right extremist viewpoint.
The Senate totally disavowed this issue. They would not even bring it forward for a vote. So nonetheless, it's a big step forward, and I'm hopeful that President Trump on day one, as he campaigned on, will take decisive action and ultimately ensure Title IX is upheld by its original intent.
Mm-hmm. I just hope that all the women during Pete's hearing yesterday that wanted to be defenders of women vote for the bill. We'll see. Thanks, Riley.
I hope that guy dies. Okay. Enough of that. All right, Trump inauguration prayer service was not too exciting. There is a lot of news sources reporting on this, but there's more to it than what the title suggests. A radical Episcopal bishop, Marion Budd, lectured President Donald Trump during a prayer service at the Washington National Cathedral on national unity and mercy for immigrants and transgender children. Good looking out. Anytime the religious people look out for the trans community, honestly, you are earning huge points in my presidency. I am not anti-religion. I am not religious, but I am not trying to dismantle the framework of religious existence. I think it's as valid as all the other fucking dumb bullshit we allow to fly in this country. So if y'all are willing to play ball with me on the trans issues, I'll play ball with you on you get to have church. Trump is basically just like, didn't think it was a good service. Didn't like getting lectured at service. Just wants you to know that he's not changing anything he's doing. I think Trump, based on the way he's been moving so far, I think he has a very specific agenda in mind, and he is just bulldozing at it. He's trying to get exactly what he wants so he can fuck off to Mar-a-Lago and do nothing else for the rest of his presidency. Barron Trump is launching his own luxury real estate company. If you needed a reason to hate Barron Trump, I don't know anything about this kid, and I already don't like him. Barron Trump has launched a luxury real estate company named Trump Fulcher and Roxburgh Capital Incorporated. That was redundant. On July 15th, 2024, and dissolved on November 14th, 2024, shortly after Donald Trump's election victory. One of Barron Trump's partners, Cameron Roxburgh, stated that the firm aims to relaunch in spring with properties and golf courses golf courses, even worse, in Utah, Arizona, and Idaho. So you want to build golf in places that don't have reliable water and also have tons of beautiful land where almost everywhere is either currently some kind of protected national park or BLM land that's free for everybody to use. And you want to put stuff that only rich elites who have everywhere in the country already beautiful things built for them. You want to build more bullshit for elites in the middle of Utah, Arizona, and Idaho. I hate this. Fuck off, Barron Trump. Trump to lift pause on 2,000-pound bomb supply to Israel, Walla News reports. Trump is expected to lift the Biden administration's freeze on the supply of 2,000-pound bombs to Israel in his first days in office. Walla News reported this information, citing an interview with the Israeli envoy to Washington. Trump is also expected to reverse sanctions imposed against Israeli settlers accused of violent attacks. Are we literally just giving them bombs? No! Stop! Why? Why? They have money! At least charge them absorbently for the bombs. But I don't want it. We shouldn't be giving or selling any bombs to Israel. No bombs for Israel. Israel does not get our bombs. They don't deserve our bombs. If they're so strapped for bombs, then fuck off. They don't get to do anything anymore. Fuck you. You're out of bombs. Get fucked. None of this shit anymore. Fuck Israel. Crenshaw pushes Apple to use Gulf of America on maps. Representative Dan Crenshaw urged Apple to officially change the name of the Gulf of Mexico on its mapping platform following President Trump's Monday executive order declaring the landmass the Gulf of America. Yeah, I'm sure Apple's rushing to get that done. I mean, the obvious thought here is he's thinking, well, if Apple does it, everybody's just going to accept it because, they got the maps. I would think Google maybe is a little more prominent if you wanted to get that done, but it's really just like a couple of guys who are really excited about the idea, really trying to push for it, but it doesn't seem like it's catching on very much at all. If it's just that one dude in Florida and this one dude in Texas, and that's all who's pushing for it, and you'll notice there's no statement here that Apple went for that totally. Also, only 2 news sources even reported on this. President Trump wants to make showerheads and toilets flow greatly again, but so may utility bills. President Donald Trump has expressed concern about low showerhead flow affecting his perfect hair. I assure you this is real, folks. I live in America. I promise you this is real. Leading to an executive order aimed at easing efficiency standards for household appliances and fixtures. The executive order promises that consumers won't be forced to buy or use low-flow items, similar to actions taken during Trump's first term. Federal energy law has limited new showerheads to 2.5 gallons per minute for over 3 decades, but Trump's order seeks to relax these standards. Polling shows that 58% of Americans show tougher appliance efficiency standards, indicating a public preference for energy conservation measures. I would really have to see data on how bad this was for the environment to think this was a bad idea. Because this is another one of those things where I'm saying, like, using the washer and dryer is already, like, tremendously wasteful. Like, you could be using your hands to wash your clothes. You don't think you have time. You think you have to do everything. You don't. You're just a human. Humans are just human. They come into this world with dreams and aspirations. They want it all, and they try to use the power of the earth and power of the spirit and power of Anita. But, like, again, the super rich are the problem. And I know Trump's not going to do anything to stop the problem at the top end, but the problem at the top end is so tremendously worse than the problem at the consumer end that blaming the consumer and punishing the consumer in any way is backwards. The consumer is forcing themselves to lower their standard of living in a way that benefits the rich. Like, they only care about this stuff when it benefits them. There's some kind of reason this benefits them. And in this case, it's because the government doesn't want to have to generate as much electricity. Like, they want you to make a lower load on their need to produce electricity because they have to reach your demands. They cannot allow blackouts. It's one of the worst. You would lose the populace so quickly if you couldn't keep up with the energy consumption of the populace. So the government wants you to lose less energy for their sake, so they can save face, so they don't have to spend as much money on getting you more power. But the fucking low flow stuff sucks. The fucking energy efficient washers and dryers, most of them are dog shit. They do not get the job done. The low flow shower heads are not blasting the filth off of your body. Like, you end up needing to shower more and for longer. You end up needing to wash your clothes twice or dry your clothes 4 fucking times because the dryer is not strong enough to actually, whereas you put that shit in a Maytag for 15 minutes and your clothes are hot. So I get this. I think this is ultimately a populist decision that I like when Trump's personal desires for comfort align with everyone else's, because he is a guy that's on the move enough that he's going to maybe eventually experience like a hotel with a low flow faucet and go, all right, who allowed this to be in America? You know, who allowed my America to have a low flow? No American should experience a low flow faucet ever again. And I'm like, that's the part of him that made him president. Virginia Secretary nominee promises expanded care options amid worries of ballooning costs. Doug Collins, oh my God, we share a last name, the nominee for the Department of Veterans Affairs, promised to protect veterans' benefits amid funding concerns during his confirmation hearing on January 21st, 2025. Collins highlighted the need to expand veterans' access to medical care outside the VA system, which may create tension with union groups and advocates. Senator Bernie Sanders noted the cost for private community care for veterans rose from $8 billion in 2014 to $31 billion by 2024. If confirmed, Collins will lead an agency with a $369 billion budget and nearly 400,000 employees serving 18 million veterans. Well, this sounds good. Like, this is correct. Yes, we need to take better care of our veterans. Like, I know the cost is going up, but this is what we're supposed to spend our money on. We're supposed to spend our money on taking care of the people in our country. The people who the country itself fucks over the most are veterans. Now, I'm speaking from the perspective of my dad is a veteran of the Navy for 8 years who suffers PTSD, who, you know, has government benefits based on his service in the military, having given him disabilities. Grandfather served in the Navy on my mom's side, you know, and is miraculously still alive at 90 years old. And based on their experiences going through the healthcare system, it's not effective. It's not very good. It's only because of the strength of them as individuals that they have been able to persist in spite of how much the healthcare system is not doing its best, even for the people who have given the most directly to the country. So I'm absolutely in favor of expanding help for veterans. I think this counts as a populist decision. I also am in favor of restructuring the military in such a way that it isn't so traumatic for the people who work for it, so that we wouldn't have to spend all this money on reparations for veterans if we didn't treat them like fucking... We literally brainwash them and then send them to die when they're 18. Like, that is how the military works. I understand that this is like how, oppression had been going for hundreds of years, but guess what? We saw what we were doing and we're not letting it happen no more, so war's over, guys. All right, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick says legislature should clarify Texas abortion law to protect mothers at risk. Yeah, that sounds correct. Texas Representative Chip Roy introduced legislation to repeal the Freedom of Access to Clinic Entrances Act, which has been used against pro-life activists, as reported by Fox News. Under President Joe Biden, many pro-life activists face prison sentences for peaceful protests, with 97% of FACE Act cases targeting pro-lifers. I don't know anything about that. If somebody wants to tell me more about that, that sounds bad. I, again, am not in favor of giving anybody prison, especially not for anything described as a peaceful protest. I would like to know the details of these stories. 21 pro-life Americans convicted under Biden requested a pardon from President Donald Trump, claiming the government was weaponized against them. The attempt to repeal the FACE Act is supported by at least 20 Republicans in the House and is expected to be mirrored by Senator Mike Lee in the Senate. I need to know a lot more about this FACE Act. I'll come back to y'all. I will follow this story and I'll learn about this FACE Act. Rubio kicks off Trump foreign policy engagements in meetings with Indo-Pacific Quad. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio hosted a meeting with counterparts from Australia, India, and Japan focusing on countering China's growing power. Interesting cabal. The meeting of the Quad. This is literally a conspiracy, by the way. Like, when people talk about what this is what conspiracy by definition is when four people get together to come up with a plan to deal with somebody else. The meeting of the Quad, four countries concerned about China, took place at the State Department as a priority for President Donald Trump. The Quad aims to address China's military and economic activities in the Indo-Pacific, particularly in the South China Sea. Rubio, who has been sanctioned by the Chinese government, is known for his strong stance on China's human rights record. Does anyone have information about what was said here? Like, what did they talk about? We know they met to talk about China. What did they have to say? What did the Australian Indian... This sounds like the setup of a fucking... This sounds like a routine, right? This sounds like an Australian, an Indian, a Japanese, and an American foreign policy engagement off fucking whatever, walk into a place. What? New Jersey governor asks Trump to examine Manhattan congestion pricing. Governor Phil Murphy sent President Donald Trump a letter requesting a re-examination of federal approval on congestion pricing. New Jersey plans to continue legal challenges against the Federal Highway Administration's evaluations of congestion pricing. Governor Murphy criticized congestion pricing as a scheme that harms New Jersey commuters and residents. Yeah, it sounds like it. What is this congestion pricing? Are they just talking about toll roads? New Jersey will launch a $20 million program to support New York businesses and allowing remote work for New Jersey residents. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy expensive to drive around. I mean, I assume literally this is about the Jersey Turnpike, which is a very, very expensive but very fast way to get to New York City from certain places. And there's lots of roads that basically exist just to expedite crossing New York, getting to New York City. I used to have to pay like $12 to take the main highway that goes from Rochester to Boston, and there wasn't another option. There's no other way. So to me, basically New York is charging you to use the roads. Like, if you want to exist in New York and be able to go beyond where you live, like literally your neighborhood, you've got to pay. And it's like, is this not what my taxes are for? Like, why is the government not allocating more money towards maintaining the roads? such that I have to pay on top of my taxes like an exorbitant amount. On the user end, the cost of tolls is crazy. And a lot of the time, your work pays for it, but it's not guaranteed. And what about when you're trying to get a job? What about when you're just, trying to establish those connections inside of the city? Or if you can't possibly do an internship and live in Jersey and pay $12 a day to go in and out of your $12 low end estimate. There's definitely needs to be an examination of Manhattan congestion pricing. Canada should focus on larger vision in talks with Trump administration, says Ambassador. Canada's ambassador to the U.S., Kirsten Hillman, suggests a shift in strategy towards a larger vision in talks with the Trump administration. Ooh boy. So this is basically their ambassador going, maybe we need to get on board with Trump a little bit. Maybe Canada needs to start playing ball with Trump a little bit, because Trump's about to start charging us 25% tariffs, and that's going to fuck us over really badly, and we got to figure out how to set up something that's going to make him not do that. I will say of Donald Trump, and I do think this is the best thing about him as a president, and the thing that makes other people the angriest because they understand it the least, he is the best bluff caller maybe of all time. He is the absolute best at putting pressure on people to fix what they're doing because now they have to. Because they were taking for granted the kindness that would be expressed through his actions. And the more he's known as a hard ass, and the fact that we put a hard ass back in office is definitely a signal to other countries that like they have to directly amend the way that they interface with America if they want to be able to continue interfacing with America, and most of them want that. So he's really leveraging the fact that we are so desirable as a country to interact with as a way to get more out of other countries. Now, in the short term, that sounds like it could benefit the USA, but if it ends up damaging relationships with these countries, and they end up deciding that they want to do something about America once they're on the upper hand, then, it won't be good for us long term. I want to be known as the greatest president of all time, where people look back at my presidency and they say the stuff that she set up is the only reason things are so good now. I don't want them to look back on my presidency and say, like, holy shit, this person set us up for failure for the next forever, like Trump is going to do in certain ways. Trump announces private sector $500 billion investment in AI infrastructure. President Donald Trump on Tuesday announced a private sector investment of up to $500 billion to fund infrastructure for artificial intelligence, aiming to outpace rival nations in the business-critical technology. So what I get out of that is that Trump is going to put whatever he makes out of the TikTok deal directly into AI infrastructure, because up to $500 billion is his rough estimate of what he thinks TikTok will be worth for the United States. So this is literally his level of imagination. I've got that $500 billion I'm going to make from TikTok soon. What should I put that into? You know what? I'll put it into AI infrastructure, because all the billionaires love AI. And they're going to love me. Trump says ICE can arrest people at churches and schools. Directs agency to use common sense. The Trump administration has canceled President Joe Biden's ban on federal immigration agents arresting suspects inside schools and churches. The action allows ICE to arrest people in sensitive areas. An unnamed DHS spokesperson stated that the criminals will no longer hide in schools and churches. Attorney Krish Omara Vignarajah expressed a concern that churches, hospitals, and schools are now hunting grounds for ICE enforcement operations. Yeah, they're just places that we don't need the fucking cops running around. They're like, this is terrorism. This is terrorism against America. To fill our places of rest, our places of learning with distraction and authoritative imagery, to suggest that this is a country where people can just be snatched and taken away by the government, that is not imagery I want my children to be around. So absolutely fuck you, Donald Trump, for this. the phrase common sense does not apply here. Common sense says that places that we built specifically to be safe grounds do not become unsafe for anybody that's there. That's the point of them. Even in fucking Fate Stay Night, churches are the one place you can't kill anybody. Fate Stay Night, the least humane story ever fucking written, the most autistic shit in the world, understands that you don't fight in a goddamn church. This one I just thought was funny. U.S. Supreme Court rejects ex-lawmaker Steve King's appeal in Success Kid copyright case. The U.S. Supreme Court declined on Tuesday to hear Republican former Iowa Congressman Steve King's bid to avoid paying a small judgment for having used without permission an internet meme, the Success Kid photo of a turban-looking 11-month-old baby at the beach to promote his 2020 re-election campaign. You know the baby in question. That baby sued this guy for using him in this campaign because he doesn't support the guy's politics. I think that's hilarious. And absolutely, yeah, do sue for that. Like, they don't get to use your fucking likeness to promote themselves just because you're a meme. It's still a person. ADL says awkward Musk gesture, not a Nazi salute. This is a delicate moment. Elon Musk's arm gesture at a Trump inauguration event sparked debate over whether it resembled a Nazi salute, with far-right groups celebrating it. Of course they would. I saw everyone calling this a Nazi salute. Every normal person that I've seen on the internet making fun of this for being a Nazi salute. So the fact that the Anti-Defamation League, which considers nearly everything to be defamation against Jewish people, is calling this not a Nazi salute, means they are fucking desperate to stay in Elon Musk's pockets. Holy shit. The ADL is this desperate to have good relationships with Elon Musk that they're going to say they're not even going to condemn this? That's insanity. They condemn everything. Not this? Come on. Be less transparent. Not a good look for Jewish stereotypes. I'm just saying, dude. Musk dismissed criticism of his gesture as a tired attack and emphasized his enthusiasm during the event. I mean, the dude has been criticized on his body language so many times, and he hasn't even made any attempt at any type of coaching or like being like I don't know, thinking about it, maybe watching another person and how they behave ever, like that you don't just fucking accidentally throw up the one gesture you're not allowed to do. That's silly. Charlotte Noblau, president of the Jewish community in Munich, found Musk's gesture highly irritating and criticized his political positions. I would definitely describe it that way. Highly irritating. Trump says Biden family pardons make him look very guilty. That's true. Donald Trump criticized Joe Biden's decision to pardon 5 family members, stating it makes Biden look guilty and weak. He is those things. Trump suggested that Biden's pardons create a concerning precedent for future presidents. Biden's pardons were controversial as they offer protection to potential Trump administration targets not yet indicted. Yeah, that part is particularly weird, but that's also the kind of thing that, like, when the time comes, like, I assume this protects these people from being indicted for things they had already done before Trump was president. Is this like just putting a statute of limitations that's more immediate on anything they did before? I don't really know how this could be possible, but I would assume that if one of these people that Biden pre-pardoned, like, goes out in the street and shoots a guy in the face, that he still goes to prison for that he's not like auto pardoned from it. It's not diplomatic immunity, like I assume when the time comes, we're all, as people who make up the law conceptually in our heads in every second of every moment, will look at the person who's committed the crime and go, yeah, I don't care about the pardon. Like, that person just did that, and so they're going where they're going. John Bolton's Secret Service protection discontinued by Trump administration. John Bolton's Secret Service protection was ended by President Donald Trump, as confirmed by Bolton to CNN. Bolton has required Secret Service protection due to ongoing threats from Iran since leaving the Trump administration in November 2019. President Joe Biden reinstated Bolton's protection from 2021 after Trump initially terminated it. Bolton expressed disappointment over Trump's decision, stating he was not surprised by it in his statement to the CNN. I don't know anything about this. Why? Who is this man? Why does Iran want him dead? Why does Trump not care that Iran wants him dead? This is a story I need a lot more information about, so I'll have to look into that on my own time. All right, did anything new happen while I was reading all that? All right, I opened up a few more articles. I'm having a good time. I don't know if I'm going to do this every day because it is a lot. I will probably reduce the number of articles or try to read more of them beforehand because I didn't really know how I was going to do this until it was kind of late in the day. Mostly I just wanted to prove that it's possible, that like figure out what formula makes sense. And so far I'm having a lot of fun with this specific way of doing it. If anybody has advice how I could improve on this, let me know. Stephanique says Israel has biblical right to Judea Samaria. At least Stephanique, shut the fuck up. Anytime someone in the United States government starts talking about biblical rights, I need you all to collectively tell them to shut the fuck up. Just like, if you could right now find whatever social media Elise Stephanie has, find wherever she said this and just respond to her, shut the fuck up. You can tell her I said so if you like, or you could just say it. Just please, go actually just, type biblical right and tell shut the fuck up to anybody who's tweeted that phrase in a context where they think it's something that exists. Trump's pick for U.S. ambassador to the UN stated that Israel has a biblical right to the occupied West Bank during her confirmation hearing. I'm going to tell you right now, if there is somebody who has a biblical right to anything, you don't get to say. God does. You're not God. Shut the fuck up. Stephanique plans to audit U.S. funding for the UN and support Israel against perceived biases. The incoming Trump administration stance on Israel differs from Biden's, particularly regarding Israeli settlements deemed illegal under international law. During her hearing, Stephanique sidestepped a question on Palestinian self-determination while criticizing the UN's treatment of Israel. As soon as you start saying biblical right, you have lost all right to be involved in the United States government. I'm happy that you've decided to stay in the United Nations, but everything about you seems awful otherwise. So, at least Stephanique is definitely on watch. Keep her on watch, y'all. I know I'm getting assassinated not long after this goes out because I've said too many unkind things about Israel, and they don't fuck around. They don't care. They'll kill my whole family line. They don't give a shit. They'll blame a California wildfire that drifted to Virginia. British Columbia Premier David Eby stated that the province will respond to U.S. tariffs with various options, including retaliatory tariffs on American-made goods from Republican-led states. Interesting strategy. They're going to tariff only the Republican-led states? There's not... What Republican-led states are you worried... Is British Columbia... Hold on. Let me make sure I know which state is British Columbia. Okay, so we're talking about... What you're talking about is Idaho and Montana. Oh, I'm sure that British Columbia, where it's all mountains over here and all of the fucking people live in Vancouver, I'm sure it'll be such a meaningful move for them to tax the red... I don't even know if Montana is a red state always. Like, Montana's a very borderline state. They got legal weed there. If you are liberal, I would highly encourage you to move to Montana. If you're liberal and you can handle the cold, move to Montana and flip this state. It's almost blue, And having Montana would be a huge deal, and we need to move into Idaho, because Idaho is the most deeply red state, and up here is where all the fucking racists are hiding and trying to build their little insurrection. We got to stop that. So if you're liberal and you can handle the cold, please move to Butte or Helena or Missoula or fucking Billings or Big Sky or Great Falls. Great Falls is probably the most serious city out here. It's beautiful. Very cold in the winter, but beautiful out there. And cheap. And they got weed. And don't worry about the tariffs. You're not going to... If you go to Canada, you're going to be going to Canada by going to Seattle and then going to Vancouver. You're not, unless you're mountaineering, in which case you're going to hike from Glacier up. But Glacier National Park, one of the most beautiful places in America, is right here on the border. You have no need to go further north unless you're trying to go to Vancouver. But this is not... Nobody cares about this. All right, this is actually high-key the scariest news I've gotten to yet. Trump says he's open to Elon Musk or Larry Ellison purchasing TikTok. President Donald Trump is open to Elon Musk or Larry Ellison purchasing TikTok, suggesting they could be the ultimate partners for ByteDance. Trump proposed that half of TikTok's ownership be transferred to the U.S. government for operating permits during a press briefing. Trump's comments followed an executive order suspending TikTok's ban for 75 days, allowing the platform to operate temporarily. The situation has drawn interest from major tech companies, while Chinese officials indicated potential flexibility regarding a sale. So basically, when the government actually banned TikTok, everybody freaked out. TikTok freaked out. America freaked out. The government freaked out because America was freaking out, and because they low-key would rather just make money off of TikTok. They were hoping that they were calling TikTok's bluff. Both sides were hoping they were calling the other side's bluff. TikTok was like, but y'all love freedom of speech, and America was like, y'all don't understand how much we can hate China. So it was a real back and forth, and ultimately TikTok has decided that they're willing to try to strike up some kind of deal. Now, Trump's been proposing, sell us half of it. And we're going to put it all into AI, apparently. But he's seemingly also amenable to the possibility of just letting Elon Musk buy TikTok. That doesn't seem to have anything to do with the U.S. ownership. It doesn't say that he wants to take half of it and then collectively with TikTok sell it to Elon Musk and therefore make $1 trillion, unless that's just something that Elon's already floated to him and that is in fact the plan. It seems like he's implying that if Elon were to just simply buy TikTok, he would have no problem just letting it keep around as long as it's just Elon's thing. Now, this is terrifying to me because what Elon did to Twitter was take something that had more cultural power to cause change in the world than any other platform, remove all of that power, and redirect whatever was left towards being his own personal club, basically. Just like a self-fulfilling engine of his own narcissism. It's pretty much just Truth Social for Elon Musk. But because of the fact that it's not new, where Trump had to go build something using his support base, Elon just converted Twitter into something that only actually benefits his support base, but is still full of all the addicts that have been there for 15 years who won't just go to Blue Sky because they're addicted to Twitter and they are incapable of practicing anything they preach or having any sincere beliefs. Why are you still on Twitter? You are personally making all of this possible by being on there. You are the reason that Trump thinks that he can sell TikTok to Elon Musk and let him simply dismantle it, because you showed him how easily you would let him take power away from you and do nothing about it. Europe ready to respond in a proportionate way as Trump touts tariffs, top EU officials say. The European Commission, led by Ursula von der Leyen, announced plans to relaunch its strategic partnership with India and update trade agreements with Mexico and Mercosur. Is that a country? We're all about to learn. Southern Common Market, commonly known by Spanish abbreviation Mercosur and Portuguese Mercosul, is the South American trade bloc established by the Treaty of Asuncion in 1991. Okay, so it's a trade group. The Mercosur Agreement is the largest trade deal ever signed by the EU, creating a market of nearly 800 million citizens and saving EU companies €4 billion annually. The EU is diversifying its export markets due to threats of 20% tariffs from Donald Trump, with the U.S. being the largest partner for EU exports. Robert Habeck, Vice Chancellor of Germany, stated that the EU is prepared for potential U.S. tariffs and called for increased investment in innovation and infrastructure. So they're basically saying, yeah, we knew you were going to do this, and we're getting ready for it. Okay, I think that resolves today's stories. That's day 2 of Trump's presidency. I can't speak on directly as much as he literally did or said because less of it was reported on. But I feel like we got a pretty robust portrait of the news today, at the very least. Gary always said, I wish I could get all of my news this way. And I just thought, like, well, why couldn't you? I'll probably convert this into a live stream show starting in March. I've been living with my parents for about a year. I've been completely broke. I have enough money to pay my phone bill this month, and then I got like $40 to make it until next month. So if anybody actually made it to the very end of this video and you have any kind of like extra money to throw at somebody you listen to this much, please, I beseech you. Is that the right word? Beseech? I beg of you, please. I'm e-begging you. Venmo, Cash App, those are the best ways to send me money. It's the only way that you can send me money that doesn't take any of my money in the process of me getting the money. I just get the exact amount you sent me through those platforms. If you don't live in the United States or in a country that has those platforms, buy my magazine on Itch.io. Itch.io seems to be the easiest way with the least overhead to purchase things across countries. I paid my editor, Ellen Horai, by buying her game on Itch.io. So if you want to support the channel in a way other than supporting me, your money will actually go a lot farther by supporting her because she lives in Brazil and she's dirt poor. So, you could give me $25 and I'll be able to buy like a day's groceries, maybe 2 days groceries. She'll probably be able to buy a week's groceries off of 25 USD. So, if you'd rather help somebody who needs it more than I do, give it to my editor, Ellen Horai. I'll put links to both of our Itch.io projects in the description. And let me know what I need to talk about and follow next time. Again, there was a suggestion to follow like Netanyahu more closely, but I really am trying to focus on U.S. politics because I know the United States really well. I've been all over the country. I understand its infrastructure. I understand it at least well enough to understand what the president's job should be in the United States. So, I can criticize at the very least the U.S. president's job very easily, and I could probably do a pretty decent job of talking about any Virginia politician, any California politician, any Midwestern The only place in America I don't know much about is the Northeast. Like I couldn't, or the upper Midwest, like the Minnesota area. I don't know shit about Minnesota. I don't know shit about Vermont, or Maine. But otherwise, I know America pretty well. Oh, I also don't know shit about Alabama or Mississippi. Other than that, they desperately need reform. So when it comes to other countries, like I can speak on their relationship to America, but I would really need to speak to people from those countries to understand their perspective on what's going on in those countries. And I'm open to having those conversations. If you are interested in talking to me about politics, let me know. Obviously leave comments, and I will respond to comments on this show if you want them to be read on the show. Let me know if you think hey, tomorrow respond to this or something like that, or send me an article you want me to respond to or anything. And, let's build a community around laughing at the news together until you make me president. Thanks again for watching Trixie the Golden Witch. Links are below. United States forever.